Welcome back, everyone. We are here with storyteller Mark England explaining how internet information impacted his work at the University of Basel. So, the mediation committee for the University of Basel looked at your work record, your criminal record, and interviewed you in early 2012, and then decided that you should be awarded a contract by the University of Basel Media Department, despite unfavorable internet information. Is that correct?
Yes, that is correct. But the contract was awarded against the vigorous objection of the head of media. As the head of media, and seeing as he was opposed to me working for him, you can imagine the atmosphere of mistrust in the workplace that resulted.
Did university administration, the rectorate, do anything to clarify your status? You were also an instructor to students at the University of Basel in the chemistry department. So students had a reason to question.
Yes, exactly so. I must say that my students were marvelous. No one asked me to explain my status, but I took the initiative at various times, explaining the Google information to put them at ease and to show there was nothing being hidden. And I would like to point out, my official evaluations of my teaching performance at the University of Basel by the students in my classes were outstanding. Again, that did not fit my internet profile.
And what about your work group in the chemistry department? Did anyone see a need for clarity there?
This highly unusual situation had always begged for clarity and guidance. It amazed me that no one showed leadership on such a critical issue, ostensibly a criminal working as an instructor. But the rectorate ignored my offers to help them. They also ignored an entreaty by a prominent University of Basel professor who knew of the circumstances and had actually asked for a clarifying pronouncement, which never came.
Did anyone for the rectorate communicate with you?
No, but immediately after the favorable Ombuds Committee decision, the vice-rector, who had attended the meeting, cryptically informed me that he did not want to be receiving any more phone calls about me. Phone calls? From whom and why? He didn't explain that.
How did you react? Do you know who contacted them?
If I recall correctly, I said that I had no control over people phoning him. He had had multiple opportunities to clarify that situation. So by that stage, I was happy just to have the favorable decision by the committee, and I began to think, as it turns out incorrectly, that things would settle down. I now consider that the university was being pressured by U.S. lawyers, either directly or indirectly. An American lawyer informed me that my communications had been sent to the Swiss Consulate General in Chicago, along with strenuous complaints about me. I should state that the Swiss authorities never said a word about this, apparently ignoring the U.S. lawyers. It seems plausible to me that when the lawyers I exposed saw my name associated with public science events at a prestigious university, they may have stepped up their pressure. The problem was that on one side of the Atlantic, the picture painted was vastly different from that painted by my science successes in Basel. That made my exposure of corruption in Milwaukee more credible, causing discomfort for important people there. The profiles didn't match, and it was the USA profile that was under suspicion.
Once you received the media contract, how did your work progress?
Creatively and intellectually, I was more or less cast adrift on my own. I decided to use my time to develop a new project independently, but it received little support from media and little public attention. I started the Science Time Researcher podcast webpage. It was a very enjoyable project. It was successful in terms of scientists who were willing to be interviewed, but without media support, I could hardly reach the public.
Are the interviews that you develop with the researchers still online?
Yes, they can be found at sciencetime.unibas.ch.
Was that your last attempt at a public science contribution at the University of Basel?
No. While I developed the Science Time webpage, I began to notice increasing reports of concern for a general lack of women in the sciences. It occurred to me that the University of Basel could be doing more in that direction. I organized a plan to create a new website called womeninscience.unibas.ch. It was to open with a roundtable discussion among female students and professors, which I was organizing, and would contain stories about women in science from the student level right up to professors and to women in industry.
Was that effort successful? Is it still online today?
As was the case with all of the projects that I initiated, at first there was skepticism and lack of interest. But after I did the foundational work and public interest emerged, the skeptics changed their minds and saw rewards could be had. I started the Women in Science project in August of 2012 without interest expressed by the media department. By December, I had interest from a number of sources, including media. They suggested involvement in the project together with the rectorate, but with one catch. They did not want my name associated with the project.
And how did things continue from there?
The situation became worse. My contract was not extended into 2013, which was not really a surprise given media's attitude. However, media now had a problem. They did not know how to organize students and researchers for an upcoming Science Slam, which was a popular event at the theater in Basel. They still wanted my services, but by making use of a separate project contract. They also did not want my name associated with the slam.
Is it legitimate to prohibit the use of the name of a person organizing an event?
Legitimate? Probably no, but doable is another matter. They certainly tried, and no one stopped them. Interestingly, by having steadfastly refused to provide a guideline on the use of my name, they sort of provide your answer for us. They could not devise a rationale for such an action as prohibiting my name. They would have looked silly. So we had cloak and dagger instead of facing the problem head on. Without my knowledge, the university media encouraged the NZZ campus publication, that's the Neue Zürcher Zeitung campus publication, to eliminate my name from the Science Slam event. When I asked media why they were doing this, I was informed that the rector had ordered it. Media then contacted NZZ Campus, a sponsor who had supported the slam from the start. They had been using my name without problems, as had the publication 20 Minutes and others. Media removed my name from the event. It should be noted the use of my name in the NZZ publication had already been approved with full knowledge of the unfavorable internet information, as I had openly discussed that issue with the editor. If the largest newspaper in the country and 20 Minutes were willing to have my name appear in their publications, then what exactly was the problem?
So the issue with your name and the internet continued, despite the success of your work.
If anything, it got worse. Now they were attempting to make use of my work, but provide no public credit. At least on the other projects, my name was associated with my achievements. By now, at the start of 2013, I was no longer willing to tolerate unfair treatment that no other employee was subject to, without a guideline or official explanation given to my coworkers. and based on information that I had already proven to be false to the satisfaction of a university ombuds committee. I formally requested that media clarify when my name could be used in an open guideline with explanation for my co-workers. My request was ignored. Once again, I turned to the Ombuds Committee because they had done such a good job previously. It was obvious that, again, media was doing things that were unfair, but this time the university refused to send someone to a meeting to solve the problem. The Ombuds Committee informed me that there was no sense in having a meeting, as I would have no one to talk to there.
Were you willing, under these conditions, to continue working for the university?
No, I refused to participate in the 2013 Science Slam unless the issue of my name were clarified. In response, and to everyone's amazement, the media department officially canceled the 2013 University of Basel Science Slam, and they falsely stated that there was a lack of interest. This was a cynical attempt to mislead. There was no lack of interest. The problem was my name and the internet. As proof of this statement, with my encouragement but not my participation, students in the chemistry department staged an independent slam. Media did not support that effort. Obviously, the independent slam that took place undermined their false statement.
Was the 2013 Science Slam a success?
The organizers, I think, would say it was. I believe it was a success. It had been a very popular event in the 2 years that I organized it, and it will remain popular because young people are excited by science.
Let us end this part of the podcast here. More to come in a few minutes on how the internet caused chaos for both events and employees at the University of Basel.